Hey guys, welcome to the Island Renaissance podcast with me, Suresh De Silva. I have with me a close friend, a buddy, and a colleague from academic circles, we could call it. He's also a renowned celebrity on TikTok. He's an online educator, he's an entrepreneur, he's an aspiring author, and I am absolutely enamored and charmed to have with us today Mr. Shamal from English for Sri Lanka.
Wow, that was quite the introduction. Very happy to be here.
Thanks, bud. You came all the way from Candy for this, so I owe you a biggie.
No problem. No problem. Very happy to be here.
Looking sharp today, Shamal.
Thank you very much. Got to stay on brand, yes?
Got to stay on brand. Masan, so tell us what's happening at the moment, anything that's new with you. I know there's a lot going on, but there are exciting stuff. I know you just returned from Japan. You need to tell us what that was all about.
Yep.
We also heard a little birdie told us, that your TikTok channel has exploded in the last couple of days. I mean, English for Sri Lanka has close to 60,000 likes now. You have over 26,000 followers, and it just keeps growing exponentially. So what's new? What's going on with you right now? What should people know?
Well, thank you very much again. Now, when it comes to the virality that I experienced recently, I honestly don't know how that happened. It's pretty organic, to be honest. But I suppose I started uploading consistently.
Also, your organic good looks.
Thank you very much.
Helps. It helps, you know.
I'm sure there'll be people that'll disagree with that, but thank you very much. I'll take it. But yes, so I started uploading regularly because I teach a lot of students from all around the world. I basically don't have a set time schedule with which I work. So for the Australians, the most opportune times are 2 p.m. to 5 p.m., 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. To the folks from the United States or from that side of the world, it's basically when we sleep in Sri Lanka. So I don't really have like a set sleep schedule. So that way because of that, it's quite hard to come up with a schedule to shoot, edit, produce, and upload content. So, but anyway, I told myself this year that I'm gonna change that. You know,
but you go live as well, right?
I do. So basically, when I teach a class, I make sure that sometimes with the student's permission,
You record.
I record it because a part of my teaching strategy, my modus operandi, is to record the session and then give each student a recording of their individual session as well. Because I believe, especially when it comes to language, if your objective is to improve speech, you can't just attend a class and then have the next class a week later. You're going to forget everything. You need to see yourself make the errors.
Right.
And you need to see a coach correct you over and over again. Only then can you internalize the mistakes that you make, recognize the mistakes that you make, and rectify accordingly. So a part of my coaching strategy is each student gets a video recording of each class. But the streaming I do on the side with TikTok, I just have my phone plopped up, and then it's just my face that's streamed while I teach a class on Zoom or MS Teams.
All right. So what you do is through the TikTok app, you have the live stream going where the students are with you on either Zoom
or MS Teams.
Right? So do the platforms vary based on the geographical location that your target demographic is from? Like, do the Americans prefer to use
predominantly, but most of them seem to choose Zoom.
Okay.
But sometimes, I've had a lot of Thai students prefer MS Teams. I don't know why, but and I think they have a different system of running things because they're not used to WhatsApp. Most of the Thai students, they prefer the Line app.
Okay, yes.
I know, So I had to learn how to use Line as well.
No, this is true because, as you well know, even I teach. And then on top of that, I also have clients, patrons that are overseas. So they prefer different platforms.
Yep.
Now, I have friends and I have, shall we say, stakeholders from industry or different vocations. So my American friends, the writers, the actors, the rock and rollers and such, the artists, the illustrators, sculptors, they're all about Messenger,
Right.
FB and Messenger.
Right.
They're hardcore. WhatsApp is not a thing for them.
Yeah. To most Americans, WhatsApp is a sign that you're doing badly in life.
It's very interesting how the different platforms symbolize and sort of epitomize also like different lifestyle and status, also to a certain degree.
Marketing.
It is, of
Marketing,
course. It is.
you know. So Apple has managed to tell most of the American populace that if you own an Android, you're doing badly in life.
Right? Yeah,
Right?
that's true.
If you
That's
use
true.
WhatsApp, you're doing badly in life. If it's that green checkered box as opposed to the blue one,
Yeah.
you're doing badly in life.
But I know now, for example, there were a couple of Greeks,
Right.
big metal scene in Greece, where they wanted us to come and perform a couple of shows.
Nice.
Hopefully that would come into fruition in the future,
Yep.
not so distant future. So talking to them, Messenger, not WhatsApp,
Right.
Not any other platform. But interestingly enough, a lot of Europeans, a lot of people around Asia, WhatsApp. To be honest, truth be told, Messenger is something I don't use at all. So Messenger is one of those platforms I have to make that extra tangible effort to
True.
log in.
I agree. Like when you compare WhatsApp with Line, I much prefer using WhatsApp over Line.
I've never used Line even.
It's tough. It's not as easy as WhatsApp.
And it's
WhatsApp
not user-friendly, I'm guessing.
Exactly my point. Line isn't as user-friendly as WhatsApp, for sure.
So, Machang, Shamal, how did you find yourself? I know you have a very interesting vocational or professional journey that you've had. I know for a fact, because you've told me, that you have a background in studying about film and cinematography, and you know a lot about cameras and lenses and videoing and stuff like that, right? Like you're very well learned when it comes to that. And we met. Do you remember how we met?
I do.
Would you like to tell the audience how we met?
Sure. It was, I've known of this chap for a very long time because back then, before social media and then before smartphones and whatnot, all of us used to eagerly await the Sunday Times newspaper and the magazine. And either the back of the page or somewhere there, you'd have a rock band. And Stigmata, everyone knew Stigmata. From Andhra, you name it, you know? This was like the first metal band that everyone knew. And pretty much the torchbearers of the entire scene. I mean, I could be wrong in saying this, but to me, you guys were the torchbearers. Like, because I wasn't a metalhead by any means, right? I had friends who were metalheads, but even my non-metal friends, when we speak about rock or speak about a metal band, they'd be like, Andhra, Stigmata, Andhra, is that metal? So that kind of used to be the energy. So I remember first seeing you guys on those magazine articles, in those magazine articles. And then recently, I wanted to get another degree. And that's where I met you.
As one does.
Yep. And that's where I met you. Well, almost all of it was a Zoom class.
We were both doing a top-up, right?
Yes.
Interestingly.
Yeah, because I had an opportunity to transfer some of my credits and get a BBA.
And
So
I
was
wanted
why
to
not?
start my doctorate.
There you go.
And one would think that a double master's, 7 stages of CIM would be sufficient. And 20 plus years of work experience would make you eligible. But they said you got to have a top up. Because I was in 𝐶𝐴LNI University back in the day and I never finished my bachelor's. I dropped out of uni.
I got my master's at 𝐶𝐴LNI, actually.
Really?
Yep. I have a master's in linguistics from 𝐶𝐴LNI.
Wow. Okay.
Yep.
So what was the time period that you were in 𝐶𝐴LNI? Was Dr. Manik and all there at that time?
Yeah, but she's a part of the English department.
Right.
The linguistics department is quite separate.
It's separate.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Back then, they had a great panel of lecturers.
Right.
I remember around the time I was in 𝐶𝐴LNI Uni at least. It was never the fault of the lecturers. I just dropped out for personal reasons and I look back at that with a little bit of remorse, but now that I've done the top up.
Right.
So we digress. So we met while doing the bachelor's.
Yeah, and I think it was a pretty boring class. No one was asking questions.
And we just DM'd. That was the other thing. We always were the two guys that were pressing and pushing the lecturers,
Yep.
engaging, right?
Mhm. That brings us to an important point, but something that because I teach Sri Lankans as well. Like I would say 50% of my clients are Sri Lankan, 50% are foreign.
Yeah.
Right? It fluctuates. 70-30, 50-50, it fluctuates. One thing that I see with my Sri Lankan students is the fact that confidence is lacking. That is something that really stands out.
Is it a language barrier?
Nope,
or is it
not at all. Not at all.
It's just in general.
Lack confidence. You ask them a question, it's always look around
To see who goes first, right?
and answer.
But this is also a truism, right? If we talk about people going out, I remember that Sri Lankans need their liquid courage to even open up a dance floor in a nightclub or a party, right?
Mhm.
Like,
True.
it's not like that overseas.
No.
Like, they're instantly there. It's different in the rock and metal scene because
Right.
people go there. But even then, you'll have people who sometimes, if it's an opening band of the few opening bands, and people are kind of like, we'll wait to see who goes and starts headbanging. Let's wait and see who goes and starts the pit, and then we are comfortable. But a lot of that has changed now. So I think the confidence thing is a key factor.
But I mean, to be fair, it's not just a Sri Lankan thing. Like in Japan,
It's an Asian thing.
maybe, yeah, probably, because in Japan, I suppose they're more timid than the Sri Lankans.
Why is that? Because you think that as Asians, we are compounded with such a truck and bus load of people telling us that maybe that's what causes the high level of insecurity, I guess, right?
Probably because
Where there's a lot of traditional and cultural, how do you say this?
red tape.
Red tape.
Yeah, cultural red.
And I would also say instilling.
Probably, yes, I agree as well. Where
Coercion, and it happens forcibly.
yeah, you're always told to know your place.
That too, yes.
In our culture, you're always told to know your place, as in
Not to overstep, not to overtalk. You mean that kind of thing?
yeah, and because respect in our culture is usually earned by age as opposed to competence or
Qualifications.
qualification.
I love that you said that.
Right?
It's a big problem in corporate circles.
Exactly. So
This whole akka, uncle thing in companies is something I've long said they have to get rid of that, because people need to be valued and they have to be rewarded
right,
for their acuity, skill sets, and experience and what they bring to the table. Especially in the Sri Lankan creative industry and advertising industry.
right,
I was a part of the whole conformist traditional ad game for the longest time, for nearly 2 decades.
Right.
And I always saw this,
right,
that people would, I believe that you have to be respectful
right.
to seniors. You
Right.
have to.
Yeah,
But there could be a case where a guy has been in the industry for 20, 30 years,
yeah,
but is doing bullshit
right.
within an agency, where there might be someone younger who has much more to offer in terms of thought leadership, ideation, creativity, innovation.
Yeah.
So like you're saying, maybe this is something that's spilled down, that just because something is culturally appropriate might not necessarily mean, Machan, that it's good for the development and the progress of a community or a society. I
Yeah.
see we've taken this somewhere else now.
Yeah, but here's the thing, right? About this Ayamali thing.
Mm.
I think I have a subjective opinion. I'm fine with the Ayamali because it's a part of our culture as well. I have a problem with the honorifics, as in the sirs and the madams. I have a problem with that,
Interesting. Okay.
right? I don't have a problem with Ayamali.
Even if it's earned.
I don't think one should require sir and madam. Why?
Mm.
When I used to live in the US,
So when you do you call a doctor a doctor? You call a doctor by the first name. This is an interesting thing.
a doctor just for simplicity's sake, call him a
Simplicity's sake.
doctor,
Yeah.
right? I don't want to go Dr. John, Dr. Rambukwala, just doctor,
Okay.
right?
All right.
But I remember this.
But at university,
Yeah,
it's a big thing especially in Sri Lanka, where you say, sometimes you might even say sir out of a thing of respect.
Yeah, yeah.
I do. I call my lecturers, if they say call me by my first name,
Right.
I'd respect that. If not, I'll say Mr. So-and-so, or I'll
Right.
say so, or madam, or whatever, if it's required,
Yeah.
right? For etiquette, for professional etiquette. But there have been instances where they're like, please refer to me as Professor so-and-so, or please refer to me as Dr. so-and-so.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, if you require it, I have no problem in obliging.
No, I'm not saying it's okay. It can be a little bit facetious. It can also be something that stems from ego.
Probably so, because to me it's this, yeah. Let's say you require a person to address you by using a particular honorific. What guarantee is there that once you're not in the same room that they slander you? There's no guarantee.
There's no guarantee. That's
exactly true. Why? So because I'd like to bring attention to one point, the one particular instance that happened to me. This was back in 2009, right? So I walked into a microbiology department and there was a professor. And I think his name was John. I don't remember well. So I said, "Excuse me, sir, Dr. John." And his immediate response was, "Why are you calling me sir? I haven't been knighted by the Queen. Call me John." And this guy was about 65, 68.
right.
You know, had many accolades to his name. And and I was what, 18 years old? So that taught me a lesson. And there's a huge difference. Like in Sri Lanka, if you were to not refer to someone using an honorific, you're marked.
You're marked.
You're marked.
And you're chastised
There you go.
for that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I don't like that. I don't mean disrespect the fella. Not at all. I don't mean that. But I think me calling you by your name is the biggest respect that I can give you.
That's true.
Right? Your mother is probably the person that has loved you the most in your life, and she gave you the name. So referring to you by your name, in my opinion, is the biggest respect that I can give you. But at the same time, you've got to be flexible. If someone were to come to me and say, "Call me by this," I don't mind, because it's not something to lose,
Sleep over.
Exactly.
Yeah, if it's something that
It's so important to
helps
them.
them sleep at night.
Exactly.
I agree with you on that.
Because one thing I've learned with age and time, Suresh, is build bridges as opposed to burning them.
True.
Right? I think in my life, I've burned more bridges than built. But you're
God.
learning. Yeah? You learn with time.
I think my 20s, if there was a separate occupation or a profession for burning down and obliterating bridges, I think I would be like vice chancellor of that particular movement or society.
There you go.
But that's how we learn, right? You burn and you learn, and not just personal bridges, but also social and professional ones. And it's a tough cookie to swallow.
There you go.
But I've had to learn after burning many a bridge that some bridges you can't repair again.
Exactly. And I think what helps ground you is the study of science. Because when you really realize how tiny we are
Yes.
compared to the universe, we're insignificant.
And infinitesimal
Exactly.
at best.
To if we were to travel at the speed of light, I saw this TikTok recently. Yeah, I don't recall the exact information, but I think it was something along the lines of, if we were to travel at the speed of light, it'll take us so many years to exit our Milky Way, our particular galaxy, to the edge of the universe, next to impossible. So it goes to tell, we're not very significant, are we? 80 years if we're lucky. From that, 60 years as viable, strong human beings. So pretty much, if someone's getting on our nerves, if you can avoid conflict, avoid conflict. You know, as opposed to when we're in our 20s, we want to save the world. Well, again, this is tricky ground. I'm not saying be a coward and walk away.
Right.
But pick your battles wisely.
But Sun Tzu always said this, which is why I love his ideology when it comes to the art of war. Because he always says, and he's brilliant. Like, we see all these, we see historical battles and warfare, epic battles about bringing glory and power and triumph. What we don't see is the back end and the flip side of, when you start a war, you've got to feed your troops. They leave absolute abject destruction in their wake, right? There's a lot of contamination. There's a lot of destruction. You're losing a lot of coin.
Yeah.
You have to spend $1. What about the armor? What about the weaponry, right? And on top of that, the disease that happens, you have to bring into consideration the environmental conditions and stuff. So Sun Tzu is one guy who always says, just what you said, my friend, that it is better to avoid a conflict.
Yeah.
To avoid a conflict is a greater victory.
Yeah.
Than to go and start a war with someone. So
Yeah.
he always says, your first choice of action has to be to try and dismantle an enemy
Yeah.
by making he or she a friend first.
Yeah.
Only as the final and last of all contingencies
Yeah.
should you.
I agree. To that point, there have been instances where you don't really like a person, right? Now, you have a grudge, prejudice based on past actions or not.
Mm.
And you don't like the fellow, but somehow, by some magic, you end up spending time with the fellow.
Or you're forced to, either
forced
for a
to.
professional thing. Or,
Exactly. So after that interaction, you're like, you know what? He's all
not so
right.
bad, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's always good to find some common ground and avoid conflict, mainly because, we're mortal.
Also, I feel that we don't have enough narratives and dialogues happening. People are not willing. There are a lot of benefits to the advance of tech, but there's also the flip side where people are living more and more vicariously, where they're disconnected from each other. And people don't spend time anymore to try and get to know someone, to engage, to interact. Physical interaction and engagement is always very different from doing that through a digital or digitized platform or a device, right?
Right.
And this was true when we were in school. It might be someone who was a bully at one point or someone who irked us to no end. But you're forced to sit next to that bugger in class at one particular grade. You start chatting and then you kind of think, hey, we sort of have a few things in common. This bloke isn't all that bad, right? But that's the way I think. We are finally, at the end of the day, humanity as a whole. This is why, as a society, we look to maybe flock together with herd mentality, where we form tribes.
Yeah.
And we're creatures at the end of the day.
We're social creatures.
We're social creatures.
Yep.
And we're drawn towards that like moths to a proverbial flame.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's important for us to connect. But at the same time, people have also forgotten the beauty of isolation. That loneliness and solitude does not necessarily mean that you're overly introverted and you're sort of idiosyncratic to the point where you're indifferent to the problems of the world or society. It's not a bad thing to find your own space, your time, to do your own thing, to think for yourself, to, allocate your thoughts. We don't do enough of that because everything is so fast-paced.
Right, yeah.
So I'm talking about a double-edged sword here, and I would like to know what your thoughts are. Because it's good to be a social creature.
Right.
And we need to connect with people in order to get to know them better.
Right.
And to change our opinions and views on them. But on the other hand, we also have to strike a balance where we know that, okay, I need Majam, be it a relationship, a marriage, be it any partnership. This is true. Stigmata, we're going to celebrate our 25, our silver jubilee next year, 25 years. Thank you. And also you mentioned about newspapers and stuff. I felt old because you said something like, before mobile phones and all of that. And we'll have young audiences going, there was a time before mobile phones?
Oh, yeah.
Like, how old are these guys?
I remember the first phone that
we talk about Walkmans and Discmans and talk about that stuff.
I remember I never had a Discman. I'm not that old, but I have the Discman, not the Walkman, the one with the CD.
We had Walkmans, man. It was a big deal
cassettes,
to have a Sony Walkman.
Yeah. I remember.
And cassettes, VHS tapes.
There you go. We used to call them decks, no? Sri Lankan lingo, deck piece.
Cassette deck.
Cassette deck
right?
And the deck piece. Yeah.
Yeah, we've
how
come
times
a long
have
ways.
changed.
But coming back to the question, Macha, how do you think we can strike that balance? How do you think we can find that the precious yin to the yang, as it were?
See, here's the thing, right? I think as people, most of us are human beings with untrained minds. And as we are individuals with untrained minds, we're all dopamine junkies. We all are. We're all in search of happy chemicals, right? Whether it be the food we eat, all right, we have a bit of food and we're like, okay, arbitrary values here, examples. Let's say there's 10 pieces of dopamine released, a piece of chicken. And you take something a bit more powerful, maybe 100 pieces of dopamine. We're always looking for dopamine.
But the feel good, right? The feel good, neurotic, the chemical, because human beings tend to this famous idiom, the misery is company. It's true for humanity, right? And it's not a bad thing to seek happiness, but like what you're saying, it'll always be that.
Yeah, and bringing to the point, like coming to the point where you mentioned those that find solace in solitude,
Yes.
right? So when we come to that point, I think once you train your mind, you how can I put this delicately? I suppose you train your mind to not be a dopamine junkie. You train your mind to find peace in something else.
To find moderation, maybe even balance.
Yep. Practice moderation, and finally, I think you're able to say no. And do we as regular folks understand that? I don't know. The philosophers...
Are we allowed to... Is there an experiential process that human beings have in this day and age to, go through that or to experience it or to indulge that, to find that balance? Are we allowed to? Everything is so instantaneous. It's instant gratification.
Yeah.
It's instantaneous approval, right?
Yeah.
You know this. You know this from TikTok.
Yeah.
I know this being on multiple socials. It's the lay of the land now.
Yep. And I think you can find that peace if you capitalize on disastrous events in your life. When something really bad happens, instead of... it's automatic to walk down the path of depression.
Right.
And on your way towards that destination, maybe you could stop and say, maybe there's another way out.
Right.
Right? And a lot of people find peace. Some of the great philosophers, the great religious leaders, they find that moment after going through great strife. So maybe strife isn't as bad as we think it is. Maybe it's the way we look at it.
There's a great Japanese swordsman considered to be the greatest.
Miyamoto
Musashi, and philosopher also.
Right.
I would say that
was a bit of a dick.
But also we can also argue that Marcus Aurelius, considered to be one of the godfathers of Stoic philosophy, was also a bit of a dick.
Right.
When it came to some stuff, right?
Yeah.
And I would say that I always say that if you go to look for a needle in a haystack, regardless of whether you find the needle or not, you'd still be searching and going through the haystacks.
Right.
So maybe everyone has a little bit of dickness in them.
Yep. We're all vain to a certain
But why
extent.
would you say Miyamoto Musashi was a bit of a dick?
Well, fine. I suppose he had a massive ego.
Well,
right? Arrogant fella.
He was fantastic and great at what he did, and he had a long way. So he had to go through so many hurdles. The path that you spoke about, if you learn about his life, he had to go through incomprehensible, unfathomable hardship in order to get where he was. And after that, everyone came after him.
Yep.
Wherever he went.
Yeah.
So I think the stories, if you watch the animations, Afro Samurai, Samurai Jack, are sort of inspired and based on Miyamoto.
Right.
And you had so many that came after him. And sometimes if you rise to the top, the very echelon or epitome of something, the zenith of even a profession, like you and I were discussing recently, where you were disgruntled, remember, where some people were being extremely nasty and they were being malicious and they were coming after, and you were just wondering, but why would they go through the trouble of DMing and trying to shit all over your day?
Yeah.
Why? You don't know them. These are faceless trolls, the people out there.
Yeah, well, we could spend a couple of hours speaking about this. Now, listen, think about it. When you're on social media, you've got to train yourself to expect the hate. It's going to happen.
Correct.
It's going to happen, whether you like it or not. It's actually very good meditation,
But without socials, that's what people did. It's just that there wasn't an advent where this was so phenomenally around us all the time. It's just made it bigger and it's just disseminated it more, don't you think? It's just promulgated people to the rest of the world instantly.
True. Because I believe...
Don't you think any was in the butt end of hate?
Maybe. It's like this, right? I think, people say that people are nastier now than ever before. I don't agree. I think people have always been nasty. The
True.
nasty people have always been nasty. The nice people have always been nice.
Yes.
The difference is now we have social media. You've got a
It's
camera
easier for them to
everywhere.
do. You can
Exactly.
hide behind the screen and you
Exactly.
can do it.
You
You have no accountability, responsibility.
Exactly. But I think you need to see the bigger picture, right? So it was hard for me. At the start, I was like, dude, what have I ever done to you? Sometimes when you receive such hate messages or comments, but then you realize it doesn't really matter, right? And you come to realize now, because of social media, you get to see this. But previously, they were as mean, you never got to see it.
Oh man, no stranger to hate, Stigmata. We received so much of hate back in the day.
Right.
It's a lot better now.
I remember you telling me once about the first article that was written on you guys.
One of the first ever articles we got
Right.
was, in a nutshell, what it said was these guys should just find something else to do.
And
We're self-taught kids in school. We don't come from musical backgrounds. Our
Right.
parents are not musicians.
Right.
Our relatives, our predecessors in our family were not musicians per se.
right,
And you're a bunch of kids having fun, and your intention was not to be in the public eye.
Right.
But when you're 14, 15, and you're just rehearsing, you have no direction, you have no
Right.
theory, you don't understand musical technique, you're just gunning it and just going with it based on gut instinct. You'd expect someone to come and say, hey kids,
yeah,
let me show you the ropes.
exactly.
But that's not the Sri Lankan way. I know it's also not the Indian way.
Here's the thing, though.
It
That
makes
is
you
found-
stronger, though. It'll break you or break you. That's there.
That's there, but it's not just a Sri Lankan thing. Everywhere in the world.
That's interesting to me.
I've seen this everywhere in the world.
Where there's no motivation and encouragement.
True. I think.
I don't think you experienced that in the States.
Oh
when
yeah,
you were there.
I did. Oh
You
my
did?
God, yes. Human beings are human beings.
Mm.
All right. See, if you're successful, this is something that I've noticed. When you're successful, you hate less. This is a pattern that I've seen.
The haters always are the ones who've not found success.
Mostly, in my experience.
I
Now, this
agree.
is a subjective statement. I could be wrong.
No,
but
I concur. You've touched upon a very valuable point. This is true because when I look back at the people who used to troll us when socials became a thing,
Right.
even before, the people that we used to hear used to badmouth us or slander us in media, the press, and all. I mean, some of them were talented, but you realize that they were flustered, frustrated folk who had maybe not achieved the milestones they wanted to in life.
Right.
And you think about it now and you're like, I feel sorry for these guys. But back then, you're young, full of piss and vinegar.
Ah,
You want, I mean, they slap you, you want to slap them back.
Yep.
And, it's a thing. But in time, like you said, with time and wisdom and experience, you realize there's no point burning bridges.
exactly, because it's like this, buddy. Haters will always hate. You can't stop that. Whether you see it or not, this will always happen.
That's true.
So you need to have an end goal in sight and go after what you want. And just like you'll encounter haters, I guarantee you'll find supporters as well. You'll
That's
find people that appreciate you as well. Focus on the positives. There was this interesting story that I read. I think this was expounded upon by the great Ajahn Brahmwansa, a famous Buddhist monk, a white monk. I think he was an Oxford math graduate who left his vocation and became a monk in Australia.
All right.
And he established the Bodhinyana temple
Great.
in Perth. And he had this story where I think they were building a monastery. Back then, there was not a lot of support for Buddhism. So he was pretty much building it on his own. And so the monk itself had spent time building this wall, masonry, yeah? And he'd been sitting down and he'd noticed that one of the bricks was off.
Okay.
And it bugged him because he spent the entire day working on this wall. And he was looking at the brick and thinking, oh, God, look at this brick. I've ruined the entire wall. And funnily enough, I think a Catholic priest who was very friendly with the monk walked by and asked the monk, is everything okay? Why do you look upset? He said, oh, look, I'm looking at this brick. I mean, I spent my entire day working on it, and I may have to, pull down the wall now. And the Catholic priest told the monk, do you not see all the other bricks? Everything else is fine. You're focusing on, and that monk says, oh, I learned a huge lesson from that exchange where don't focus on the negatives. Yeah, one brick is off, but there's 999 bricks that are properly placed, right? So it's hard.
It is hard, yeah.
This sounds fantastic. Like, oh, wow, yeah, you can. That's a beautiful saying. Are you able to do that all the time? No, we're vain creatures. Negatives get to us. Hate comments get to us. But I think we should practice mindfulness to a level where we're able to say, it really doesn't matter. Go on your path.
That's true. Maybe not to take, it's been hard also, but being a fan of Stoic philosophy, okay, one of the most important things that I've learned, Jess and I both have learned,
right,
is not to take everything personally. And that's sometimes hard to do. Not every problem requires me to find a solution or to worry about it.
And how do you do that? Kill the ego.
Kill the ego. You have to start by killing the ego. Once you kill the ego, after that, you're able to discover parts of you that begin to understand, is this a problem that's relevant to me? This resonates with me? Can I make a difference? Can I make a change here? This is an external thing that I can't in any way impact or affect. Me worrying about it, me like cursing myself and being depressed about it is not going to change it. Right?
Yeah.
So
easier said than done.
Easier said
Much
than done.
easier said than done.
But in that vein also, there's a band that heavily influenced us, Stigmata, called Morbid Angel from Florida in USA. They're a death metal band. They're an extreme metal band. And the frontman at the time, a guy called David Vincent, once said something very important. He said, if people don't hate you, you haven't done something right. And he says the only way you know that you're starting to do something right is when people start to hate you, because that's how you know you're touching a nerve.
Probably. There's one way of looking at it.
It's an interesting way to look at it. But like you said, at the same time, instead of looking at the few haters, we should look at the people that we've inspired and touched upon positively, right?
Right. And there's every possibility that your haters outnumber your supporters as well. Still.
There is that chance, yes.
Right? Still, concentrate on your supporters.
On the good that you have.
Yeah, exactly. Because at the end of the day, do they matter? Someone leaving a comment, does it matter? Does it change your life in any way? No, it doesn't.
That's true.
Right?
Maybe the jealousy and the envy and being left out of things and the hate that I have found affects me is where it has come from people that you've deeply invested time and effort and you've loved at some point.
Oh, that brings us to an important point. Example. Now, a couple of months ago, now this is a great example. A couple of months ago, there was this kid, a Sri Lankan kid, who used to dance, and this was the tune, Amuka Dumuka Amal Dumal, right?
Okay.
There was a tune, a song by a regular band,
All right.
and it became viral, right? And he became viral because he did a funny dance to this, right? Now, this is something I noticed. This kid got a lot of traction for this.
Right.
I mean, he'd post the same dance in different locations. He'd get hundreds of thousands of views, right? Built quite a social media following. It's kind of disappeared of late, but he did. And I remember this kid used to get a ton of hate. As in, what are you doing with your life? Right? Pisekta. Why are you dancing like this? To me, whenever I looked at the video, I was like, it's like a 16-year-old kid having fun.
Let him have fun, right?
Let him have fun. It doesn't hurt anyone. He's just dancing. There's no profanity, right? He's not hurting anyone. He's just dancing. But note this. When I spoke to some of my friends who've achieved things in life, so the successful ones, all of them were like, this was like a common response with them. Oh, he's got a lot of traction. Maybe we could reach out to him and do something. The successful ones had a similar answer.
Really?
The others were always like, what is he doing with his life? What? So that brings us to a point, like
successful people
are always looking for opportunities.
And will always look to help foster and help other successful people to grow.
True.
Not everyone again.
Right.
But there is a segment, like you said, where they won't look down on someone and try to shit all over them.
I think they're always looking for opportunities to better themselves, to expand their brand. So some of the friends that I spoke to saw this fellow was like, he's generating a lot of views. I need to do business with him.
Nice.
Whereas someone else was like, what is he doing?
They saw an opportunity there,
Exactly.
not a chance to
Yep.
criticize and chastise
Exactly.
them or rebuke them.
Which is why they're successful. They're always looking for opportunities. Right?
That's interesting.
They try to see the positive in anything,
Mm.
which is why they're successful. Because I think it's a mindset.
It is a mindset. Positivity is definitely a mindset. Easier said than done, but it is a mindset
It
for
is a
sure.
mindset.
Because being cynical is important. Being able to have qualms or doubts and to question things is something I believe is a part and parcel of critical analysis. And critical thought isn't pushed or encouraged enough, especially in Sri Lanka. We have a bygone education system. There, I went and said it. We have an outdated education system. Everyone will shout and scream from the rooftops of how it's a British education system. It's a high standard. Our local universities push a very high standard. But the absolute truth is, it doesn't push holistic learning, experiential learning. We have been, as a nation, we have been producing for far too long parrots and robots, Machang, that have no emotional intelligence. They have no ability to dissect a situation and solve a problem with critical analysis and critical thought.
Yeah, limited, I'd say.
Limited.
Unless you're naturally gifted, where you have those gifts.
You naturally
innate
have that in you.
You intrinsically have that in you.
So I want to go full circle again with regards to English for Sri Lanka and you being an educator.
Right.
Because I want to ask you, because you keep talking about, and you spoke about your methods,
Right.
the mechanics you use,
Mhm.
the methodology as it were, where you believe that cognitive, repetitive, experiential learning is very important for students and learners in this day and age. And I agree that it is. Now, what I want to know is, because I've seen some of your clips where you talk about this, and I believe very strongly, steadfastly, that people need to realize this.
Yeah.
How important, Machang, is reading? How important is reading not just to build a human being that is capable of critical analysis and thought, but how important is reading, Machang, where it actually bleeds into a person's ability to speak better, to write better, to articulate and communicate better?
Reading, in my opinion, is one of the best weapons that you can have in your arsenal. It is your best friend.
Mm.
And it doesn't cost a lot of money either. And as I've told a lot of people, you don't have to read some particular material. Of course, it's good to read things that you find interesting, but
Yeah.
read something. Keeps your brain active.
Yes.
It's an exercise. Like how you'd go to a gym. Let's say you want to hit a certain weight,
Yes.
push a certain amount of weight on a bench press. You work at it and you get stronger. Trust me,
Yes.
when you read, it helps your brain. You work out your brain. It's an exercise for your brain. And it bleeds into other avenues
Yes.
of your life as well. So in my opinion, reading is absolutely essential. This is something that I tell almost all of my students. And a common retort that they have is, find it very boring to read. It's difficult to concentrate. I'm like, it's fine.
I've heard
15
this.
pages a day.
I've heard this from non-readers, non-voracious readers, and I tell them so many topics and subjects. You've just not found the right thing
Exactly.
to read that you love to read.
True. And even if it's the other case where they can't find something to read,
Mm.
I tell them 15 pages a day.
Of something.
Yeah, that'll take you 15 minutes max. 3 books, 15 pages a day, 5 pages each.
All right, okay.
The moment you hit 5 pages, whether it's interesting or not, switch over to the next book.
Next book.
And
So
you can
you'd encourage, Machang, I love that actually. 3 different types of books, is it?
3 books. Whatever, just 3 different books.
Different by genre, by style, or doesn't matter?
If you have an interest, yeah, books in that particular area.
Hmm.
If you're not interested in anything, which happens, I mean, you'd be surprised. This is quite common. Any kind of book, right?
Right.
And if you keep doing it, you will build interest, right? Because there's some amazing authors out there. I've met a lot of non-readers who start reading.
Do you think comics and graphic illustrations are a good gateway? Comic strips and stuff for people?
Absolutely.
Anything, right?
To my students that are just learning English,
Mm.
I tell them, because they say it's boring to read novels. Perfect. Read comics.
Right.
Tintin. I mean, not be very politically correct in this day and age.
Tan.
Oh, God,
Tintin.
yeah. So, you know how it is nowadays. So, you got to be very careful. You've got to navigate that dangerous landscape.
Or Asterix. Great stuff there, Macha.
Great stuff there, but very not PC, yeah?
Yeah, but that was the beauty of it.
I know. We never even considered these things. But you know what? It's scary. The world is very PC right now, but I see way more hate right now. Maybe that's a result of social media exposing the inner thoughts and works of people.
It's a yin-yang, no? You can't have one without the other. The more one thing gets popular on the other end of the spectrum, I mean, like you said, I think the world is leaning very heavily towards this whole woke sentiment, this woke ideology, right?
Yeah. But for me, it's this, right? If you're protecting...
But the flip side of it is,
yeah,
and ironically so, there's
Yeah.
more loathing and more hate.
Yeah. I mean, it's like this, right? If the PC movements leads to the protection of a group, I'm all for it.
But it's the PC movements that are triggering the hate also in a way.
Possibly, but this is the way I look at it, bud. I think despise is a strong word, but I think I despise ultra-conservatives as much as I despise ultra-libs.
Yeah.
You know, I can't find common ground with
I know
either
what
group.
you mean, yes.
You know, it's difficult because...
They both got it's my way or the highway attitude, right?
Exactly. Like, for example...
And they both can't tell the forest from the trees either.
There you go. Like, let me tell you this one. If you ask me the question, do I believe in a higher power? Do I believe in a God? My honest to God answer is yes. Let me tell you why. I'll never forget this flight. I was flying from Fargo, North Dakota to Chicago.
Right.
I was on a small jet.
Okay.
Like, not a private jet, just it was a small jet, right? United Airlines. And then we got into a lot of turbulence. And at that point in my life, I was an atheist, a staunch atheist. And the plane was going through the worst turbulence you could imagine. I started praying to every deity you could think of. Right? At that moment, I made covenants, agreements with each and every deity you could think of. Like, please, I don't want to die.
The old gods and the new, if you're talking Game of Thrones and House of
There you
Dragons.
go. And at that moment, so we landed safely. But I like to think of myself as a man of my
providence.
word.
You saw it as providence. And
well, to me, it's like probably the avionics kept me safe. But still, I made agreements with about 12 different deities and said, I will give you thanks. So I wish to be a man of my word. Right? Because it was a scary moment. I thought I was going to die. You know? So it humbles you. Moments like that humble you.
yes.
Right? So now, but here's the thing though. If you ask me, do I believe that the world is 5,000 years old? I'm sorry, no. There's corpses thawing due to global warming, you name it. There's corpses thawing in the Siberian
Or that
tundra.
the earth is flat.
Yeah, there you go. That's another can of worms. So there's corpses of animals frozen in the tundra that are thawing because of, say, global warming. And if you carbon date the stomach material, that's 12,000, 16,000 years old.
Yeah.
So there's no way the world is 5,000 or 6,000 years old. But here's the thing. The people get really mad. They say some kind of secret group strategically placed those fossils there or these animals there to propagate a certain view. I'm like, come on, people. Right? It doesn't make sense to me. So I don't straddle like a hardline opinion.
Yeah.
Which is why I don't like ultra-conservatives as much as I don't like ultra-libs. I have nothing in common with them. Like, for example, so that particular example, if you could expound on it, the Earth, flat Earth. I mean, come on, we have satellites orbiting the Earth. There's been human beings that have looked back at Earth and seen the sphere for what it is. See, I have a hypothesis. I would say 5% of the Earth's population, I don't know where I'm pulling these figures out of, but just humor me for a moment. I would say 5% of planet Earth is very, very smart, intrinsically intelligent.
Right. Yeah.
As in, let's take a physics class, for example. So if you were to take a case study, a group from our populace, let's say that's the perfect average group, yeah? Like represents everyone equally. Say, sample, I'd say 5% of that class would understand strong physical concepts immediately. The moment you explain it, they get it.
So, guys, the Island Renaissance podcast can only be a reality, and it comes alive thanks to our official sponsor, which is Skin Family Wellness Private Limited. Skin Family Wellness is a body care, therapeutic, treatment, wellness facility, state-of-the-art wellness facility that is situated in the heart of Colombo. It's opposite Bellagio Casino, number 353 𝐼𝐴 Mavata. Its hotline is 0112 575744. So make sure you check out Skin Family Wellness on all the socials, Instagram, Facebook. The website is going to come out soon. You can call the hotline for treatments, for bookings, inquiries, and reservations. There's everything. These guys have everything from full body massage therapies and treatments, Swedish full body, customized full body massage treatments, foot reflexology, hand reflexology, cupping, hot stone massage, and herbal steam baths. All right? So make sure you check them out. And finally, a big shout out to iFilm Sri Lanka for accommodating me and for allowing me to record and for supporting me. The wonderful team here supports with the filming and the editing of these pod interviews. So thank you. Right, yeah.
I'd say another 5%, no matter how you try, don't get it.
Right.
And the 90% in the middle, I say they follow. If there's an intelligent person leading the flock, the 90% follow that fella. If there's a dummy leading the flock, they follow the dummy as well. Right? This is something I truly believe.
Like social media influencers. This
Maybe,
is why
yeah.
so many people who do utter rubbish on different platforms, modern day influencers.
Right.
I was having a conversation with a fellow marketer.
Right.
Was name dropping all these Forbes and all these top list of influencers around the world, Selena Gomez and this one and that. And
Taylor Swift
and all of that. And I just said, there's someone who's not in the list, not even in your top 20 or top 30, that I think is the greatest marketer in the world right now. He's not a person from academic background, but what he does and how he's managed to synergize brands and to endorse brands as an ambassador and to use digital technology to promote and push and not only bring the conglomerates and the brands he's affiliated with up, but the movies that he's worked in, Ryan Reynolds. When you look at the promo that this gentleman has done with Hugh Jackman for Deadpool and Wolverine, whether you love Marvel, whether you love Deadpool or not, Wolverine or not, it doesn't matter. Just look at the amount of social media platforms and channels that these two have relentlessly and tirelessly. Sure, they're pushing a movie. Sure, they might be getting paid $1 to do it.
Yeah.
But I've seen more promo, my friend, for D&W right now than I've seen any movie cast make machang. They've been with Gordon Ramsay on his cooking show.
Yeah.
They've been on First We Feast eating chili and suffering.
Right.
Right? They've been on the BBC. They've done Never Have I Ever on MTV. Like across the board, they're promoting it. And they're tapping into all these different platforms where there are digital leaders there, thought leaders even.
Right.
You know? And the reason I brought that up is because I find that you are completely right. It's easy to follow someone who is popular. It's easy to think that you're motivated and driven by someone who sprouts out complete drivel, like Taylor Swift, for example. But
I kind of tend to like her music, though.
that's okay. I think she's a talentless hack. But let's
you're about to get a lot of haters right now.
Oh, I'm already getting a lot of hate after the last show because apparently I got on stage and I threw some dirt openly at Swifties and also
Oh, wow.
the acolytes of a certain prophet in Sri Lanka.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
And I did this openly and I upset quite a few people apparently on socials. I'm like, yeah, I don't care. It's
See,
what I
this
feel.
brings us to the point where people are gullible. Now, this is something that I'd really like to talk about, buddy. Because I don't understand how one could... Now, if the cap fits, put it on, yeah? How could you be a proponent of an ideology or a prophet or a person, a religious leader that used to exist thousands of years ago, who promoted kindness,
Humility.
humility, and a material-free life when you've got 20 million rupees on your wrist? I don't get it. Like, this is not a... I mean, this is
No,
common
you're right.
sense.
It's a very antithesis of the belief system and the doctrine itself.
Yeah.
I agree with you. 150%.
I mean, if someone were to...
It's not just one prophet. There are a few.
And by the way, this is not a dig at any religion. I think you see it...
Across the board.
Across the board.
Yeah.
Across the board, right? You see it across the board.
That's true.
Right? And maybe this person will have a better answer. Maybe this person actually has a justification for it. But
It'll sure be fun to find out.
I don't get it. I don't get... Maybe those are fake watchers. Then it makes sense.
But religion
Right?
has
Or maybe
always,
they were presents.
But religion is not necessarily spirituality, my friend. And I feel that people have often used religion
Right.
as a scapegoat for them to kind of inculcate and find more influence, power and affluence.
Right.
Like you said, it's not all organized religion have done this at some point.
Yeah, but that brings me... That reminds me of this particular pastor in the United States of America that refused to open up his place of worship during Katrina.
Yeah, I heard about this. Yeah, it's a famous story.
He refused to open up his place of worship during Katrina to house the displaced.
Yes.
I mean, imagine how different that is from the leader of the religion.
That's mad.
Right?
That's truly mad. Yeah.
Like-
I heard about this.
I'm not a Christian, but I have utmost respect
For
for
the
Jesus
Christian
Christ.
sentiment and Jesus' teachings.
I love the fact that he was a selfless... I apologize to any Christians watching that I referred to him as he. I'm not sure if I apologize, if I insulted anyone, I apologize. But you can't help but respect that man-God entity,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Because it's as selfless as it gets. Never killed a single human being. When people were trying to stone someone to death, what he said was,
even when the false scribes and religious pundits of the time came to trap him and asked him, what do you feel about paying taxes and levies to the Roman Empire? What did he say? He said, give unto God what is God's and give unto Caesar what is Caesar's.
right.
Which was a beautiful, beautiful comeback. Because what he said is, you're living in a society with different communities. You have the Roman Empire.
Yeah.
You have to pay levies and taxes to your government. So give credit to God in your life. But also, don't forget that you have to also give credit to whoever is the ruler at the time. Meaning, he didn't tell people to go and revolt and to go hysterical.
Yeah.
So it's a interesting thing. So Machang, we've reached the end of the podcast. There's so many things I wanted to talk about. Yeah, we've gone through an hour. We've gone through an hour, my friend, like a blowtorch through butter. That's what's happened.
I thought it's just been like 15 minutes.
I know, man. I know. The best conversations feel like that, right?
All right.
I want you to talk about Japan very quickly.
Right.
Why you were in Japan, how English for Sri Lanka maybe opened that door of opportunity for you. And also, you've also mentioned that you may be going to Thailand also.
Yes.
Talk about that for people who don't know.
So I'm trying to expand the brand, right? I have a dream to make English for Sri Lanka, English for Thailand, English for Japan, English for Asia.
Nice.
I have something in my eye. Apologies. So yeah, the trip to Japan was partly pleasure, partly business.
Right.
Because there's a huge English learning market in Japan.
Of course, yes.
Right. And I wanted to see if there were any opportunities and got a couple of nice leads as well. Spoke to a couple of schools. And so but the investment that is required in Japan is quite steep, right? And then I looked at Thailand, and that is doable, which is why I think when this episode airs, there is a very good likelihood that I
You
would
might
have,
be in Thailand setting that
yep,
up.
setting that up. Excited for, because I believe Asia is the final frontier.
In the sense, how do you mean?
I think there's a lot of room to grow in Asia as opposed to the West. There's a lot of untapped potential in Asia.
Okay.
Thailand.
You're talking, are we speaking symbolically just in terms of market opportunities? Or are we talking about on a larger scale in terms of resources or overall development, or what it can offer in terms of trade value to the world?
For me, subjectively speaking, I know about the education space. So I don't think I'm qualified enough to speak about the other spaces, and I don't like to do it, right? So in the education space, Asian families place a lot of importance on education.
Yes.
So if you're planning to start an education company, I believe Asia is the best place, in my opinion, right? My subjective opinion. Especially if you're teaching language, Thailand, Taiwan, China, Japan, lots of opportunities. Yes, you need initial capital. A certain investment is required, but I think if you're good at what you do, if you already have a following, if you already have proven yourself to students, the opportunity exists. And the barrier to entry is, it's easier to access the system
It's
as
not,
opposed
it's not
to the
as
West.
high as it would be, you're saying, in Europe or the Western world.
Yes, especially with Sri Lankan passports. All right.
Good one.
Yep. Well, I don't blame those nations either, because a lot of our folks,
Illegal. Right?
have mucked it up for the rest of us.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Don't I know it
There you go.
from a recent
So
development.
from their perspective, I don't blame them, because if you are a leader of a nation, your number one primary objective or your task should be to protect your borders and protect your people. So if there's people coming in, and if that poses a risk to the resident population, I don't see a problem in them. Well, I think it's fantastic that they're protecting their own people. Wish our leaders would do the same for us, yes?
That's true.
But yes, education market-wise, Asia, lots of opportunities.
What of, Machang, your writing? Your book to be published and your entrepreneurial ventures. So I would say that maybe as part of your entrepreneurial ventures, it's you expanding to Japan, expanding to Thailand, and these are part and parcel of it. Unless you have a separate business model or a plan outside of English for Sri Lanka at this point.
Right now, English for Sri Lanka is everything.
Right.
English for Sri Lanka takes up most of my time, all of my time. The book, well, I've been pretty much writing the book for a while now, and you've inspired me.
Really?
𝐿 has inspired me. And this brings us to a very important thing that I want to say. This is cool. I asked my students from Sri Lanka, have you heard of Shahan Karunatilaka? I'd say 99.99% of them would say, who? And I think that's an absolute travesty. This guy has won a Booker Prize, which is like the Oscars of the book world.
Yes.
Right? A Sri Lankan, a brown chap from Sri Lanka, won the equivalent of an Oscar in the book world. And most Sri Lankans don't know. To me, that is an absolute travesty. 𝐿𝐴𝐵𝐿. Yeah? And I think media, people in power, the powers that be, need to push these influential individuals that have actually done things, because it's so inspirational. I mean, we could have the next J.K. Rowling. Forget it. The next Shahan Karunatilaka.
Yes.
Right? The next Yudange, the next Suresh De Silva. We need to inspire such individuals. We need to bring up those inspirational individuals, give them a platform, and inspire the young minds out there. You know? I mean, something that I wanted to say.
Awesome, Machang.
It's sad that some individuals...
I'm glad you said it.
Yeah. It's really sad to me that people that have ascended to the summit, as you said, to the epitome of such spaces, and yet the masses don't even know. That is just sad, right? Even the owner of this particular establishment, Jason, like I just saw that
They won an Emmy,
Yeah,
right?
he's won an Emmy. That's crazy. That's like the epitome of TV.
It is. It is.
And-
It is the epitome.
And I just got to know it after I saw that certificate.
Mm.
Maybe a token of appreciation or whatever. But you ask the average Sri Lankan or just a person, do you know what an Emmy is, or do you know that this person has won an Emmy?
They won't even know what
No,
an Emmy is.
but this is where the media needs to step in. Talk about it. Loke තියෙන popularම TV award එක අපේ Sri Lanka ඉපදිච්ච පුද්ගලෙක් දෙනලා තියෙනවා. It's beautiful. Inspires some local kid out there. Oh, so it can be done.
Of course. Of
Right,
course
so-
it can be that. Yeah.
Shayan Karnathilaka. Maybe, let me tell you something. When I started writing this book, so I would write this book and I would go on Reddit, on the internet, and type, is it easy for a brown kid to have a book published in the Big Five? You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Yeah.
99% of the comments said, no way, don't even think about it. Even the Americans find it really hard to get it published, and I put it in the back burner. And also reading the reviews on Goodreads. Good God. Scary.
Brutal, huh?
Brutal, right? I suppose I didn't have a lot of mental fortitude back then in that avenue, right? But then, when I first found out about Shahan Karnathilaka, I was like, what, he won a Booker Prize? That's the top. I was like, so it can be done. So it can be done. Wow, it can be done. And now, when I saw all this, Jason's gentleman.
Also, a lovely chap, if you didn't know. Lovely chap. Amazing songwriter, not just
Yes,
a
sir.
storyteller.
Right.
He was the founder and the guitarist of a band called Independent Square.
Oh,
that
so he's a
inspired-
musician.
Musician. Independent Square is the first band to release a rock album, a full-length rock album in Sri Lanka. Alternative rock album. And they
Wow.
inspired us, Stigmata, when we started off in a big way, man.
Oh, so these guys were OGs back then.
OGs.
Wow.
Super nice guy. I bumped into him at the Royal Thomian this year at the Coles tent. We had a long chat, and hung out for a while. And he's always been very cool,
There you go.
inspirational guy.
So I think media, the powers that be, need to push these individuals. Because that way you can inspire people, inspire our fellow countrymen to think, you know what, there are barriers of entry, but it can be done.
It can be done for sure.
And
With
this
the
is
right
important.
support, right?
Look at what has
Advocacy.
happened with the cricket team, the female cricket team. We just won the Asia Cup.
That's true.
And because of that, think of the hundreds of thousands of little girls at home thinking, you know what, I can be the next Chamari Athapathu.
I still didn't see enough media publicity for that.
Exactly.
I found out about it on X, on Twitter.
There you go. There
I
you
didn't
go.
see it shared on WhatsApp chats and groups the same way.
It needs to be pushed. They need a procession. There needs to be a double-decker. You know the famous double-decker? They need to be put on it and taken all around Sri Lanka.
That's true.
They deserve it. I mean, I'm a huge cricket fan, and it's very sad what has happened to our national team. I don't want to kick them when they're down,
Yeah.
right? I really hope that they'll bounce back. I mean, they've been trying to bounce back for 9 years, so there is frustration, but I still believe in our boys, and I want to see us get to the top again, and I think they can. I believe they can. Let's manifest this into reality, right? They should. But with the Asia Cup win, hundreds of thousands of kids, girls at home, probably talking to their dads. Dad, can you get me a bat? Can you take me for cricket practice? Usually, I suppose the parents, a certain sect, would probably have said, "Ane me vadakatati vadak karanda, cricket gahala monawa karanda, adhyapane poddak karanda," or something along those lines. But now it's like, yeah, do it. Why don't we allow you to go for cricket practices?
Nice.
Right?
Yeah, that's
So
true.
those seeds of change need to be planted. The seeds of change need to be sowed.
Only
sown.
when the seeds of change are sown.
Yeah.
And when it is reaped, will there be great opportunity for bigger and better harvests in the future?
Yeah.
I'd say so.
Yeah. And before we end things about that particular religious individual.
Like I said, end things because we can see the crew around us all fidgeting, and we can see them wriggling and scratching themselves, and they're like,
right.
the beautiful lady here who's holding up the cue cards of the time has now grown extremely flustered with us because she's run out of cards.
There you go. Now.
She's scribbling now. Stop talking.
So, about that gentleman. Look, if he's helping people and if people are genuinely out of the bad situations that they experience because of it, good for him. Good for him. And good for them.
Yeah.
You know, as long as there's no suffering, as long as we could reduce suffering in the world, if it works for you.
Which gentleman have you gone back to now? Because we were talking about. Oh, all right.
You know what we're talking about.
I know. You took a reverse leap all the way there. We did a small time travel because.
The reason I say that, Suresh, is because I wouldn't have said that in my 20s. Now, this is like a very open conversation. We're riffing. We're talking about many different things. Build bridges as opposed to burning them.
Yeah.
Right? And
I think we have the theme for our pod interview here.
There you go. Build bridges as opposed to burning.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if something helps someone be a better individual, good for them. Plus, do we know people?
That's a good point. We shouldn't judge others for finding their zen in something that we are not privy to or that we don't. Just because you disagree with someone's belief system doesn't mean that you have to necessarily rebuke them. Right?
But don't get me wrong, though. I have a strong opinion. I don't see how you can have 20 million on your wrist and preach that gospel. I don't get it. But there needs to be an opportunity for someone to come out and give their side of the story as well.
That is true. That's true. That I give you credit.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's you're right about that. That's some food for spiritual thought for myself as well.
There. Possible answers.
Maybe I'll go a little bit easy on the Swifties and the acolytes.
You should because
the acolytes are profitability.
Great road trip music, you know. Great road trip music.
Nah, man. I'll give you a better playlist, bro. But thanks, buddy. Thanks for being here. Let's end the session with a series of rapid fire questions.
Sure.
Remember, just shoot from the hip here. Don't give it too much thought. We'll go through it very fast, right?
Yep.
And then conclude. What's your favorite book of all time?
Chamber of Secrets. Harry Potter.
Really?
Yep.
You're the second person to say Harry Potter. What?
Chamber of Secrets. Very specific.
Chamber. It's the second book also.
Yep.
All right.
I have a reason for that. A very specific reason for that as well. Was going through a very tough time in my life. I was very young, but for about a year, tough financial times for about a year.
Okay.
And I didn't have a lot of money lying around to do fun stuff, and that book was my escape.
Okay.
That book was my escape. I probably read that over 200 times.
Lost and Stuck in a Desert Island. Is that the one book you'd want to have with you?
No.
Different question. What's that
Definitely
book?
not.
What would that book be?
I would have Mindfulness and Beyond by Ajahn Brahmwansu.
All right. Okay. Okay. Interesting. What's your favorite song of all time?
Wow. Can't think of one. Honestly. So many. Can't think of one. Don't have a favorite song.
Favorite artist of all time? Surely.
I have moments, not artists.
Give me an artist.
Okay. In the rap world.
Okay.
50 Cent.
All right.
Get Rich or Die Trying. His debut album.
All right.
Killer.
If you take pop music?
Pop music. Can't think of one. Okay. Slim Shady LP was very good in terms of rap as well. Anything by Stigmata. Huge fan of Godsmack. All right, and I'm going to put it out there. I like Limp Bizkit.
That's fine, man.
No. I was thinking about something. I like Nickelback.
Oh, all
I
right.
do.
All right.
I don't get the hate. I genuinely don't get the hate. Why do people hate Nickelback?
It's just fashionable to hate them. They're talented, man. He's got a very identifiable voice, and they write hit songs, man.
Right, and he's successful.
He's successful. Chad Kruger. Yeah.
I know.
What's your favorite food?
My mother's rice and curry. Very specific. Right?
Okay.
A well-made rice and curry is fantastic.
Your favorite thing to drink?
A cold beer.
Nice. Good one. This is a bit of a controversial one. We're not saying it's with anyone or anything. What's your favorite sex position?
If I like the person, missionary. Yeah.
Good one. And finally, favorite TV show?
Favorite TV show or easy? 2.5 Men.
Really?
Easy.
Okay, that wasn't the final one. I have to know what your favorite go-to movie is of all time.
Okay. The Other Guys. Will Ferrell, Mark Wahlberg.
I didn't see that coming.
This is good. Wasn't a big success, but I could watch it at any time. Coming back
It's a feel-good movie for you.
It is. And even 2.5 Men, it's that thing that I have playing in the background when I clean, when I
Right.
wash, do anything.
It was a funny ass
Oh,
show, though.
good.
I
Brilliant
love it.
writing.
Not the one with Ashton you're talking about with Charlie, right?
With Charlie, not with Ashton.
I mean, the kid was small.
Exactly.
That
When he was
funny.
cute.
When he was cute, right? Cute
Charlie.
and annoying.
Charlie, some people just have that charisma about them.
He had that.
Oh, my God, yes.
And always in like just a Hawaiian shirt and shorts, no?
Exactly.
Nothing
the
else. And
bowling
flip-flops.
shirts. The bowling shirts.
Yeah,
not the
bowling
Hawaiian-
shirts.
The
Bowling shirts.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Fantastic. I mean, it's been so many years since he left the show, but I could still watch it. Fun.
Superb, man.
But some of the jokes that were played on that show will not cut it today.
Oh,
Oh, no.
no. Some of the jokes in Big Bang Theory won't cut it today, I'd
That's
say. Or Friends. It
Friends,
won't work today.
definitely. Friends, definitely.
Today it'll be cancelled.
Yeah.
But who knows, my friend? Maybe we've annoyed enough people after this pod episode where we're going to get cancelled. Who knows, Macha?
You should ask me who my favorite cricketer is of all time.
Okay, because no one else has come on the pod interview for the Island Renaissance and said, ask me this question.
I demand
Who's your
it.
favorite cricketer?
The great Sanat Jayasuriya.
All right. Very good.
Love him.
Cool.
On and
Macha.
off the field.
Awesome, Machak. So thank you. Thank you for being here, Shamal.
Oh, absolute
Wonderful
pleasure.
conversation. Heartfelt, soul-felt. I think it was very provocative. It'll get people to think. People would learn a lot from this, Machang. Thank you for driving all the way from Kandy all the way to Colombo for this interview, Machang. I appreciate it. We appreciate it. Finally, give a shout out, Machang. How can people reach out to you, Shamal? How can they, if they want to learn, they want to contact you, Machang? If they want to call you for motivational talks and speeches and such, how can they reach you? Give a shout out about your official socials. This is the time to do it right now, buddy.
Sure. Right. So you could reach me on English for Sri Lanka on TikTok. That's my primary form of social media. And I own a company called English for Sri Lanka, and we provide training services and coaching services for IELTS, TOEFL, SAT, conversational English, and we also do etiquette workshops. That is my baby, right? I used to work at a university a while back, quit that to start my own baby. So that's it. Find me on English for Sri Lanka.
Good stuff. Thanks for being here, Shamal. Cheers.
Absolutely. Absolute pleasure. I want to thank you because thank you for giving me this platform. Always a pleasure to talk to you, sir. And see, I used an honorific because I actually respect you.
Oh,
right?
man.
And thank you very much. And thank you to the crew. You've been very accommodating, very nice. Thank you for everything. Thank you for allowing my little Ulanzi stick with my DJI Pocket 3. Thank you very much, sirs, and the madam here. So that's it. Brilliant episode.
Brilliant episode, buddy. Awesome stuff. Cheers.
Cheers.